Hello, everybody. Let me turn this off. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. This is the Sportcat Daily Gazette, your chance to find out what's going on that other people don't tell you about.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
That's right. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. As most of you know, my show is based on what some podcasters and shows do on the internet and talk about how the world is going to end today or tomorrow or April 20th is the new date I hear. Who knows? So that is my mission here on the Sportcat Daily Gazette. And I share with you what I call the non-top secret President Daily Briefing. You can get it on Signal too, by the way. Oh, mercy. All right. Well, I thought I'd throw that in as a joke. So I hope everybody's having a great day, and I hope everybody's ready to kick this thing off. Let me share my screen here, and we will maybe get into. Hey, Wendell, welcome to the show. Oh, yes. I'm ahead of myself a little bit here. Let me thank everybody first. Yergs at yergsradio.com and Rainbow Radio. Thank you, Yergs, for allowing me on your interwebs. And thank you to Radio X in Australia for allowing me to tickle your ears. And hello, Chris. And if you would like to come over and join our chat, we have a lively chat. Sometimes they get stirred up. Sometimes they just make fun of me. Sometimes they just chat. So if you want to come over, I'd appreciate it. I could use you to help boost my numbers by hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing. You can come over and find me on the YouTube at Para R Normal Guys. 3 words. Guys is spelled with a Z as in zebra. And you can also just search out the Sportcat shows, our Sportcat's Daily Gazette. One or the other or all the above. But please come over, like, follow, share, and subscribe. I need your support. We're almost monetized. We are that close. So just need some help pushing me over the edge. And I'm on my 3rd Mountain Dew of the day. If you want to support me by buying me a Mountain Dew, it's in the show description. You can buy me a Mountain Dew. Cup of coffee is what a lot of them say, but I don't drink coffee. So if you want to buy me a Mountain Dew, I won't complain. So this has been an interesting week. So it's just, we'll just leave it at that. I'm still in East Tennessee. My normal studio is in Atlanta, Georgia, and it appears I'll probably be here for a bit longer, but short of some technical glitches, we can make this happen. Yergs has helped me out a lot, and so has some of my family members who are techies. So we've got most of the problems settled. So Denise, I see Denise is in the chat too. And KG. Well, I'm not seeing either of them, but hello, Denise. Hello, KG. Welcome, welcome. All right, so everybody today has ad nauseum covered the Signal thing. You know by now what happened was a senior staffer added a reporter to a chat group where they were in the discussion talking about bombing Yemen. Some people are offended because they're using emojis. Some people are offended because they're using Signal. Other people were just offended. But the event went off without a glitch or hitch, whichever words you want to use. And so own it, admit, no harm, no foul. Don't do it again. Let's move on. We need something else to get us in the news cycle. Lord, we talked about in the past how the U.S. war machine typically spends about $50 billion a year. And if we're not in a war, well, the war machine's not making money. And we know we're trying to get peace in Ukraine, brain cramp, sorry, between Ukraine and Russia. And we're trying to get peace in the Middle East. So if we don't do something with either Iran or Yemen, we're going to be at peace. And the $50 billion war machine will be not making any money. So that's what brings me to the Daily Wire story today, talking about the U.S. military is staging some serious firepower near the Middle East. And in some headlines, you will see that we have dispatched another aircraft carrier that should arrive there within a week. So the United States is moving serious military assets near the Middle East as President Donald Trump's continuing to pummel Iran-backed Houthi terrorists in Yemen, and has warned Iran that it must enter a nuclear please enter a nuclear deal in the next several weeks, or else its nuclear program will be eliminated. The war zone, I need to go to that site and check that out, reported that multiple B-2 Spirit stealth bombers were en route to the Indian Ocean island of Diego Garcia, an island in the British Indian Ocean territory where the U.S. military has staged assets for attacks in the Middle East. At least 3 B-2 bombers, 3 C-17 cargo planes, and 10 aerial refueler tanks. Now remember, one aerial refueler tank can support up to 30 fighter aircraft. So that's some power. They're not talking about probably right there. And over the last 48 hours. And story is dated as of this morning. So a fourth B-2 bomber appears to also have been en route to the base when it was forced to make an emergency landing in Hawaii. The report said, isn't that the wrong side of the world? The report said that additional information pointed to more B-2 bombers departed Whitman Air Force Base in Missouri, where all of America's B-2 bombers are located, earlier today and are now bound for Diego Garcia. The report said that the deployment of the bombers was a force package that is significantly larger than any kind of routine deployment or training exercise. The B-2 bomber is the only aircraft capable of carrying massive ordnance penetrator. I can say penetrator on the radio, can I? The world's most powerful bunker-busting bomb. Hey, I got that one off without a hitch. The 30,000 pound is capable of penetrating, I said penetrating again, up hundreds of feet of pure rock or concrete before detonating a massive 6,000 pound high explosive warhead. You know, I'm not a professional journalist, but I don't think that's written right. The 30,000 pound bomb is capable of penetrating hundreds of feet of hard surface, be it rock, concrete, granite, or whatever, and then detonating a 6,000 pound high ordnance. Wow. All right. Well, I don't know that I can't turn the autocorrect off, and it can't turn off the redneck. It's really hard. The MOP, that's what they're calling the massive ordnance penetrator, is the weapon. Now I know I need a pop filter. The weapon that the U.S. and Israel would need to use to reach some of Iran's underground nuclear weapons facilities that are buried under the ground. The move comes as SecDef Pete Hegseth ordered 2 carrier strike groups, yes, we just said that, to the Middle East last week. One was already there, so they're sending an additional one, each of which has more firepower than most countries have. There has also been a recent deployment of additional Air Force F-35A Joint Strike Fighters, an advanced 5th-generation fighter, to the Middle East, the report said. So we talked about the planes going there. You know what? Let's see if I can figure out how to do this on the fly. Let's just take a quick peek and see if we see any military traffic. Just for giggles. I'll probably freeze my computer. So let's hope not. Okay, well, as you see, this is currently all of the aircraft, civilian, general aviation, and military across the United States. At any point in time, there's an entire city above your head. But let's eliminate that a little bit and cut some of the fat and look at only military aircraft. So we can see here, well, there's quite a few. There's a trainer up in Canada. There's lots of activity down in San Antonio. That's where they do some training as well. And so that's lots of pilots. They do pilots training down in the Panhandle in both Mobile and Pensacola. So it looks like there's some activity going on there. And then over here on the coast of Jacksonville is another area where they do some training. Like there's some stuff going on there. All right. And let's just take a hop across the pond and see what's going on here. See if we can see anything. So, what do we got? That is a C-130 from the Turkish Air Force. This is a Super Hercules from Qatar. Is it Qatar or Qatar? Which is it? That's a Turkey aircraft. What is this? It's not showing anything there. There's an Italian aircraft. There's not really showing much going on in the Middle East. It's dark. Most of this is up around the Russian Federation, Europe, Baltic area. So they might not be talking. But if you're going to go here, which is, I would assume, the area they're going to, is Hawaii the wrong way to go? I mean, maybe. I don't know. Let's see here. What's this? Where's this coming from? This is a C-17, and he's not squawking his flight path. So he's out over Hawaii. That's about all we know. He's out over Honolulu at the moment. So interesting. I would have thought they would have went to Europe. They would have went up and over like this aircraft is probably doing. And let's see. They're showing his flight path. He's originating out of Germany, Luxembourg, right? Yeah, he's coming out of Germany. So I would have thought that if they were going to stage in Europe, although I must admit I'm not sure where the Isle of Diego is. That is correct. It does not show the ones that have the tracker turned off. There are only certain times that they have to squawk by law. Squawking is when they have the tracker turned on and off. So that is correct. If they're not showing it, we can't see it. So that's why I'm suspecting we're not seeing much going on right in through here. That's my suspicion. But we can see that the military is doing lots of training today, and the pilots are getting lots of training experience. So we can, hover over some and see what they're doing. But for the most part, that looks like it's all just, see, like this one's an empty call sign. It's not going to show me anything about him. That is probably that's a refueler. So he is either up doing a flight with 30 aircraft training around him, or he is headed somewhere. So let's see. I don't think that's, nope, that's a Gulfstream. So interesting. That's probably a dignitary. So coming out of the border. And this does not show any of the civilian aircraft companies that they use, like Phoenix. I'd have to put in a special engine search for just the Phoenix ones. But that gives you an idea right now across the world. That is what our military is doing. You can kind of see. And like I said, like he said, the ones that are talking and showing their flight path, like this Super C5 Super Galaxy here, Air Mobility Command Unit, probably left Honolulu and is headed somewhere, but it's not showing us where. It's only talking till it probably gets out a little bit over the ocean and it will disappear. And then if it does show landing somewhere, it will disappear from there as well after a brief period of time. There was another website I was going to go to. What was it? I don't remember. Yeah, well, this is all open source. This is just ABS tracker. It's you can go, everything I'm showing is ABS tracker. And also, in case anybody's concerned, I'm not giving away any secrets that we didn't just talk about in there, because I don't know what the hell the military is doing. I'm not in their Signal chat group. It's a joke, guys. It's a joke. Remain calm. But there are several flight trackers you can use. You can use Plane Finder. You can use Flight Aware. You can use ABS tracking. So there's several of them that you can use. But that was just a little quick glimpse. There are guys and gals that follow that to a T, and they can tell you what each aircraft does and where it's been, where it's going. I'm more of a hobbyist in that, so I don't do that. That's not my cup of tea. All right, so we'll continue chatting about this signal breach. And for the record, it is a breach. It is a leak. However you want to, whichever word you choose, it was definitely something that should not have happened. So Tom Cotton has stated that the Biden administration authorized signal apps for communications between top officials. Now we're going to talk about something else with this in a minute, and I'm going to bring some stuff up that's probably going to get some people a little twerked, but I'm just reading the news. This one comes to us from, where does this? This is also Daily Wire, one of the sites I find to be pretty open and honest. The Biden administration authorized the use of the unclassified Signal messaging app for official communications before top Trump administration officials began using it. According to Senator Tom Cotton, who chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, appeared on Fox News on Tuesday and suggested that the outcry over top Trump officials using the encrypted messaging platform to communicate is misdirected, as the use of the app began under the previous administration. And he is correct. On Monday, The Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, we read the article, we were one of the first to read it, revealed that he was mistakenly added to the Signal group of top Trump officials discussing the plan to attack the Houthis. A Senate Intelligence Committee hearing scheduled for after Cotton's appearance on Fox News featured two of the officials also included in the group: Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Radcliffe. I bet a bunch of those senators that you see at the hearing today are using Signal as well to speak to each other, to speak to their aides, Cotton said, ahead of the expected questions over the Signal group at the hearing. It is my understanding that the Biden administration authorized Signal as a means of communication that was consistent with presidential record-keeping requirements for its administration, and that has continued into the Trump administration. It's simply another messaging app like iMessage app on your iPhone, are email servers that every administration has set up in which senior officials can communicate with each other, Cotton said. One thing we need to consider, there's probably several ways of communicating, and they have to have backups to each one. So revelations about the Signal group chats, part of which were published in The Atlantic on Monday, and as I understand it now, they have released all of them, the entire chat. I was kind of hoping that he would keep, what do you call it, journalist privilege or whatever, but it appears he didn't. Revelations about the Signal group chat, part of which were public on Monday in The Atlantic, sparked questions about National Security Advisor's Mike Walls' future in the administration. Goldberg reported that he had been added to the sensitive group chat by an account labeled Mike Walls. President Trump dismissed suggestions that he would fire Walls over the Signal group on Tuesday. Trump told Fox News that he's not getting fired and called the Signal group, quote, a mistake, but added that nothing important was shared in the thread. Goldberg said that sensitive information was relayed in the Signal thread that had potential damage to American military and intelligence personnel, particularly in the broader Middle East, if it were to be released. He did not publish the alleged messages he referred to, and good for him. Now, it is my understanding he has released them to top Democrats, but I don't know that for a fact. It's just one of the news stories I heard this morning, and they are all worked up about this. I'm not saying they shouldn't be. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but what is it they say? Don't let a good crisis go to waste. So why is it not doing that? Do what I say. Why is it not doing what I say? Yeah, don't let a crisis go to waste. All right, so the Daily Wire's morning brief: Signal chat fallout, cutting soda from Snap. Well, that's interesting. What's Wendell saying here? Oxford, Alabama police seldom turns on the ones in their helicopter. Yeah, neither does the county I live in, and it's so annoying because they also use encrypted communications for their radio traffic, and there is no transparency within their agency. They come and go and do whatever they please, and nobody knows. They have drones, they have helicopters, they have 2 helicopters, they have multiple drones, and we don't know what even the police officers or fire department or EMS is doing. Wendell says, did you see the chat I did for a while? Was it on Signal? Why wasn't I invited? So national security officials are being grilled on Capitol Hill. I think they're at lunch right now, amid the dueling accusations over a military strike text change, bringing, why is that not turning off? I'll turn it off. National security officials are grilled on the Capitol Hill amid dueling accusations over a military strike text change. Big food companies are fighting to keep soda and snacks on the subsidized menu. And the EPA chief, Lee Zeldin, is taking swift action to dismantle cumbersome environmental regulations. It's Wednesday, March 26th, and that's the news you need to know. Well, all right. So we've talked about the chat leak. They are on damage control. A user named Mike Walls had added the editor of the Atlantic to the Signal group and discussed a series of attacks. They used emojis and stuff, and it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look. It was from a news channel. No, I didn't see that, Wendell. Was it on Signal? I am on Signal. I have been on Signal for many years. So John Ossoff, he's from Georgia. Have no respect for the man. Asked Director Ratcliffe, this was a huge mistake, correct? And he said, no. A national political reporter was made this is John Ossoff speaking again, was made privy to sensitive information about imminent military operations against a foreign terrorist organization, and that wasn't a huge mistake. This is an embarrassment. This is utterly unprofessional, coming from him. Ratcliffe insisted that nothing was inherently wrong with the national security officials discussing the military plans on Signal. It was approved under the Biden administration. One of the first things, this is one of the quotes I really want people to pay attention to. One of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was Signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. He testified before Congress. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration. So I'm wondering if he's saying it goes back even further. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, also a member of the chat, told Virginia Senator Mark Warner there was no classified material that was shared on the Signal chat. Trump hasn't said much about the saga yet, but it seems like he's standing by Walls and the entire team. The president told NBC News yesterday that Walls has learned a lesson and he's a good man. Trump added that he is not concerned about the story, saying it's only a glitch in 2 months, and it turned out to not be a serious one. Luckily, it could have been. So we are lucky that it wasn't more serious. And let's not do it again. So I hope the staffer that put from Mike Wall's office that put him on the phone chat or in the group chat, I hope they are terminated and their name is released and they can be prosecuted for leaking information since it's not classified. Food lobbyists are fighting tooth and nail to stop the Trump administration from limiting taxpayer subsidies for junk food. The Trump administration has made a strong push to restrict soda, candy, and unhealthy options from purchases being made with SNAP, commonly called food stamps. Proponents say it is necessary in light of America's obesity and the overall health crisis, and chiefly about how taxpayer money is spent. Federally, these changes have been discussed openly by HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, who play a key role in administrating these benefits. There's also numerous bills in the House seeking to restrict junk food and soda from SNAP. And in case anybody forgets, America's obesity problem during the early 80s, I guess, was blamed on Coca-Cola. There's several reports, multiple books out about it, how the Clinton administration went after the soda industry and won. I'm not saying they should have or shouldn't have, but that was the movement started back in the Clinton administration. It's picked up steam at state levels. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee has asked the feds to allow her state to restrict SNAP. Lawmakers have made similar moves in Idaho, Kansas, Arizona, Indiana, Texas, and Wyoming, to name a few. In related news, West Virginia has just passed a bill that bans a number of food dyes often found in junk food and sugary drinks. Yes. That will affect the soda industry too. Yes, even my Mountain Dews. Guilty. And the soda industry is running a strong opposition campaign to the bill. Well, they're lobbying to keep their junk and their dyes and their chemicals in there. It will go into effect in 2028, though it will affect school food programs this summer. Good. Good. The food industry is working across numerous fronts to protect the profits of these products. About 1 in 8 Americans receive SNAP benefits, currently with soda as the most frequent purchased item. About 10% of all SNAP spending goes towards soda and sugary drinks, and another 10% towards junk food. Man, I hate to cut junk food, but it needs to be done. American taxpayers reportedly subsidize roughly $4 billion, that's with a B, worth of soda products through SNAP. And our children deserve better. Buttering Trump up, the American Beverage Association, which represents all the big soda companies, gave money to Trump's inauguration, as they have for past presidents. Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Keurig, Dr. Pepper have directly engaged with administration officials, talking up their commitment to, quote, zero sugar options and clear product labeling. Coca-Cola almost also famously met with Trump in January to gift him a personalized bottle of Diet Coke. Let's see what is Wendell is saying. Do you have anything to say about this stuff? Well, it needs to, it also stop. Walmart has also engaged in lobbying efforts to stop these restrictions. And believe it or not, there was also a lobbyist from the American Heart Association who advocated against these restrictions. What? As was first reported by the Daily Wire's Luke Resnick, the AHA has since claimed that the lobbyist miscommunicated the group's position. Yeah, I would think so. The poll commissioned by the ABA found that 58% of Trump voters believe food stamps should be allowed to purchase soda. Overall, 64% of those polled agreed. But again, this was conducted on behalf of the ABA, which is the American Beverage Association. And it only polled about 800 people. It's noteworthy that a significant number of Americans who voted for Trump received SNAP benefits, likely tens of millions of America. Trump himself has not said anything for or against restricting soda and other junk food from SNAP, though he has empowered RFK to enact Make America Healthy Again Make America Healthy Again agenda. Yeah, we've done this before, and the diet things that they put in there are not good either. So the body will process pure sugar better than the body will process the chemicals or corn syrup. So if you're going to have them, at least use real sugar. But they don't like to because, well, we have to import it. It costs more money, and they can make that. We have an abundance of corn in the United States, and we can make corn syrup easily. And the chemicals that go in, well, those are just additives for extra flavor and preservative. I'm using air quotes for anybody on the radio. So yeah, it's all about the bottom line with all of them. Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper, it's all about the bottom line. They want to, and as it is with any food company, they want to get as much money as they can and squeeze every drop out of each ounce of beverage. Chris says, I'm just waiting patiently for a picture of Christy Nome. I don't know that I have one. All right, EPA cuts spending and regulation. The second Trump administration could oversee one of the largest shifts in environmental policy in over a decade. EPA Chief Lee Zeldin is leading in the transition with an aggressive effort to cut extensive climate regulations. The Trump administration and Zeldin, in particularly, are aggressively attacking Democrat climate policies and green programs. They were for electric cars before they were against them. It's all part of President Trump's strategy of energy dominance. I'm here to fight for the part of the Trump mandate earned on November 5th, Zeldin told Fox's news anchor Laura Ingraham earlier this month. There are people who cannot afford to be able to heat their home, to purchase a car, small businesses that are struggling to operate. People have been put out of work, and it's going to end. Zeldin wants to reform and repeal dozens of the most burdensome climate rules. That includes, for instance, Biden's electric vehicle mandate that aims to force a radical change to the automobile market, with half of new cars being sold all being electric by 2032. The infrastructure is not there yet. Zeldin's EPA has also set its sights on Obama's 2009 endangerment finding. That rule essentially set the basis for the EPA to police greenhouse gas emissions in the United States and spawn a massive amount of environmental regulation. Zeldin has also cut and reclaimed funds from climate programs. In a cabinet meeting on Monday, he said that the EPA had cut over 22 billion, that's with a B, worth of contracts, which had previously been going to. Trump's Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, has also worked alongside the EPA to greenlight a lot of oil and gas projects. And Wright has also been cutting regulations on energy producers, so much so that oil and gas executives are reneging on the green investment pledges and pausing the transition to green energy that Democrats have wanted. There also was a major court case punishing Greenpeace for its extreme protest strategies. Last week, it was found liable for nearly $700 million for helping violent protesters destroy and vandalize property in their attempts to sabotage the Dakota Access Pipeline. The trial revealed that the Greenpeace USA organizers had trained protesters and even purchased supplies the protesters used to commit illegal acts. Wonder if that's going on in other things. So they were for it before they were against it. Check. All right. I understand now. All right. Our next article, still from the Daily Wire. I'm fairly pleased with the Daily Wire. There's others, but this one is good. Wendell says, try Google Images. Chris says, as much as I don't like Trump, you cannot disagree with the fact that so much was supported until it wasn't, and the only change to cause it was a different ass sitting in a big chair. Exactly. It's not about making America great again. It's about hate Orange Man. If Orange Man says it, it must be bad. And that's the most ridiculous claim anybody could make. You either have your feelings and your things that you are for and against, or you don't. It's not about one guy. The only thing that changed was, like he said, a man sitting in a chair. The judge who blocked the deportation flight has now been assigned a signal chat lawsuit. Now remember, this news just broke 2 days ago. Now we already have a lawsuit over it. And it's overseen by, well, who else but the judge that's working to block the deportation flights. And I saw last night that they had a press release about it wasn't a press release. It was footage of Chuck Schumer saying that they had installed hundreds of judges that would block President Trump's agenda, whatever it may be. It was, he said it, it's on tape, it's played out. So a left-wing federal judge who is already locked in a feud with Trump administration has been assigned to the lawsuit over the leaked signal chat where officials discussed impending military action against Houthi targets in Yemen. Who is the U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg? He's an Obama appointee, has been assigned the lawsuit. And who assigns that? How does that happen? I don't understand. Who assigns the lawsuit? I guess I have to look that up. Which was filed by an organization that claims the signal chat violated the Federal Records Act. The communications were released Monday by the Atlantic editors-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg. We've read the article. We've talked about it ad nauseum. And he had been inadvertently added to the chat. The Trump is locked in a feud with Boasberg over his attempt to prevent the president from expediting the removal of Tren de Aragua gang members to El Salvador through the use of the Aliens Enemy Act. Judge Boasberg is a Democrat activist. See, I don't think you should be a judge if you're going to be active in politics, and because to me, you can't be partial. That's just my opinion. He was appointed by Barack Obama. His wife has donated more than $10,000 to Democrats. And there's also lawyers and judges that their family members have done the same thing to the Republican parties too. And he has consistently shown his disdain for the president and his policies and is unacceptable. That is a statement from White House Press Secretary Catherine Leavitt. All right. Representative Brandon Gill is now seeking to impeach Boasberg over his injunction against the Trump administration's expedited removal of illegal aliens believed to be tied to Tren de Aragua, a transnational criminal organization that the administration has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Boasberg has a history of stonewalling President Trump's effort, while his wife has engaged in overtly partisan activity, the Daily Wire has reported. Boasberg issued a ruling in 18 that limited the administration's ability to detain migrant families who had entered the country, hindering Trump's attempt to disincentivize illegal immigration by limiting the issuance of parole. The Obama appointed judge also granted leniency to the only official charged in connection with the Russiagate hoax. Bosenberg spared former FBI lawyer Kevin Kleinsmith from prison after he admitted to altering an email to an FBI agent concerning Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. Kleinsmith had incorrectly labeled Page as a source for the CIA, heightening suspicions of the Trump campaign. Bosenberg said that Kleinsmith, it should be easy, had been forced to endure a media hurricane, and he only sentenced to him a year of probation and 400 hours of community service. His wife, Elizabeth Manson, has donated more than $11,000 to Democrat candidates and committees, including Hillary for America, when she faced off against Trump in 2016. Manson is also founder of the Meadow Reproductive Health and Wellness and Abortion Clinic in Northern Virginia. In-clinic abortions are safe, simple medical procedures. At Meadow, our providers offer procedures up to 15 weeks of gestation. Manson's clinic writes on its site, "We offer both telehealth and in-person medication abortion services for patients up to 11 weeks of gestation." Gestation means pregnancy. Uh, how do you do a telehealth abortion? I don't know. Maybe it's some new medical thing I don't know about. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm for or against. I'm just, how do you do a that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. See, the problem with two of our, let's see, Chris says that this is the problem with our two major party political systems. Until other parties are not seen as a joke, nothing will change. I don't disagree with that comment at all. And Wendell said that is true for the most part. And he wants me to send the link to Chris. Which link do you want me to send? But yeah, I don't know how you telehealth abortion. That one's that I will definitely Google, since I'm interested in the medical field, because I don't know. It's, would you call your doctor on the phone and say I need an appointment and see him and say give me the pill? I don't know. I really don't know. That one throws me for a loop. So this is discussion. This is via Yahoo News, but it's really The Hill. How the Signal group chat has furor. How the Signal group chat furor has affected the five biggest players. The furor, the anger, we'll just replace the word, over a headline making group chat consumed Washington for a second day on Tuesday. It's going to until Friday, when some big news drops at 5:00. And the one in your messenger. Okay. All right. Just give me time. President Trump spoke to reporters from the White House about the matter. It was also the focus of a contentious hearing on Capitol Hill. And yes, it was. They were yelling back and forth at each other, and some of them even asking rude questions that I think has no business being asked. But what do I know? I'm just a voter. Chris says, "Does the doctor just say the baby is gone?" Well, yeah, I don't understand that one. I will definitely research that one, because that to me is just curious. This the central issue about this is the revelation that many of the most senior members of the Trump administration used this app Signal to conduct a group chat about the then imminent U.S. attack on Yemen earlier this month. The controversy became public. We've said this ad nauseum when he published, Jeffrey Goldberg published the article in The Atlantic, when he was inadvertently added to the chat. And supposedly the culprit is said to be a staff member affiliated with National Security Advisor Mike Walls. To me, I think the biggest thing about it is somebody should have stood up and go, "Hey, can we talk about something else? Can we go somewhere else with this?" I think that was one of the big things. If somebody had done that, that would shed a whole lot less bad light on this. Goldberg on Monday published some excerpts from the chat, which we've read. Criticism with it included criticism of Europe from Vice President Chance Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and details of the way members of the group reacted with emojis to express approval of the initial strike against the Houthis. But Goldberg has so far only offered contours of another alleged element of the chat, Hegseth providing specific details of the attack a few hours before it took place. The fact that such an inherently sensitive information was being communicated in such a forum and in front of a reporter whom no other participant appears to have noticed has caused political storm. Now, who of us hasn't sent a text inadvertently to someone else? I've done it in text, chat. I've sent emails and been like, oh, that was wrong. The National Security Advisor, Mike Walls, the Florida governor, here's the central players that have been affected. National Security Advisor Mike Walls, the former Florida congressman, has incurred the most direct embarrassment from the episode. If he or someone on his staff had not mistakenly invited Goldberg to connect on Signal and join the group chat, presumably the discussion would have never been publicly discussed. What would we have to talk about for several days? Trump has come as close as he ever does to acknowledging a mistake. I think a reporter's showing a little bias there. As close as he ever does, he's answered questions. He has referred to the episode as a glitch, argued that the media has made a big deal out of this, and said that Walls has learned a lesson. Well, he's certainly getting grilled by the media, and suggested that it would be better to hold sensitive discussions in person in the White House Situation Room. That being said, it does not appear that his job is in imminent danger, as some people thought it might be when the revelations first emerged. So Trump praised him as a good man on Tuesday morning. The previous day, the White House press secretary Karen Leavitt insisted that Trump continues to have the utmost confidence in his national security team, including National Security Advisor Mike Walls. Waltz has also made expansive efforts to stay in Trump's good graces. Invited to give some remarks by Trump at the White House on Tuesday, he paid tribute to him and his amazing success. Next character is Defense Secretary Hegseth. He first appeared that he communicated more sensitive information than other participants on the call, at least according to Goldberg's version of the events. This is embarrassing in itself. Some experts have also questioned whether it could run afoul of the Espionage Act. Second, Hegseth's central role risks violating those critics who see him as a lightweight in the run-up to Hegseth's confirmation hearing that to get him to the Pentagon. They questioned how a former TV personality with limited and checkered managerial experience was really the best fit for such a key role. He's also been the most aggressive trying to push back against the reporting, and his posture has drawn criticism from some unexpected quarters. Asked by reporters about the story on Monday, Hegseth fired back, "You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited journalist." Also implied without saying so that there was something false about the story. This attack moved Britt Hume, the chief political analyst for Fox News, to shoot back on social media. Oh, for God's sake, the administration has already confirmed the authenticity of the message. Hegseth has denied he or anyone else on the chat was texting war plans. Goldberg has continued to say that's not true. However that shakes out, the SecDef may have suffered more damages so far than anyone else. Can't argue with that logic. Trump has one obvious advantage in the saga. He wasn't in on the group chat and found out about it from a reporter in professed ignorance, saying he had previously been unaware of the matter. Trump has also attacked the media as his usual tendency. Well, he doesn't get a lot of good media, that's for sure. During his Tuesday remarks to reporters, he called Goldberg a sleazebag, alleged without evidence that the Atlantic editor-in-chief has made up a lot of stories, and contended ominously that the journalist is basically bad for the country. Trump also contended that the media was so confused on the story because, this episode aside, we've had 2 perfect months. I hate it when he uses the word perfect. There's nothing perfect. Setting aside the president's propensity for hyperbole, good Lord, it's tough to see Trump suffering any serious political damage. His base of support has weathered far bleaker episodes than this, from January 6, 2021, Capitol riots, to his criminal conviction for falsifying business records. This group chat is just a black eye, but will most likely clear up soon enough. And saying something else about Signal, January 6th proved that Signal was not secure. The government can get them. Wendell says the aliens took it. Chris, and they're referring to the medical procedure. Chris says, I yield to your medical expertise, Glenn. If you can't figure that out, I don't feel as badly now. Yeah, I really am going to Google that. I don't see how telehealth, I could see it for a lot of things. But that to me, no, I don't know. There might be something new. You can shoot a sonic wave through the, I don't know. Well, I will research that though. Trust me, that one's perplexed me. One of the more substantive elements in Goldberg's original story concerned Vance. The vice president was shown in the group chat expressing some skepticism about an urgent attack on Yemen. Basically, his argument was that Europe had more to gain from the strike against the Houthis than did the United States. At one point, a message from the Signal account in which Vance's name appeared to tell Hegseth, if you think she would do it, let's go. I hate bailing you out Europe again. Intriguingly, Vance has also suggested that a strike on Yemen without Europe shouldering much of the burden would be out of step with Trump's previous rhetoric. I am not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now, Vance apparently wrote. On one hand, it was a pretty mild dissent. On the other, it was notable that the Vance spokesperson told Goldberg shortly before the original story published, the president and vice president had subsequent conversations about this matter and are in complete agreement. See, I was thinking about that. Isn't the vice president's job the one to reel him in when he's going to do something, or to say you're not going far enough? I mean, to me, in my mind, that's kind of what the vice president, I don't want them to be perfectly aligned on everything. There's a great scene, if you ever watched Martin Sheen in West Wing, where his daughter he portrayed the president of the United States, and his daughter had been kidnapped, and he went to his chief of staff and his joint chief and said that he wanted to go bomb the shit out of some country to make himself feel better. And they were like reeling him back in. So I feel like there needs to be somebody that goes, okay, come back to earth here. I could be wrong, but I think that that's consistent with a good vice president and a good office staff to give feedback, because there is no way one person can know everything. And Chris says, I was going to compliment Trump for calling a guy a sleazebag. Then he pulled the perfect 2 months crap, and I changed my mind. I agree. And let's see, Bigfoot, when is the price of eggs going to come down? Well, you must not have listened for the past 2 days. Prior to this, I reported that Brazil and Italy are both going to be providing eggs, so we will be safe before Easter, and prices are already starting to drop. So you're eating Italian eggs and Brazilian eggs. So if you want to do a salsa after eating breakfast, then you might want to think about that. All right, so we're talking about Jeffrey Goldberg. He's been in the crosshairs of Trump, Hegseth, and Walsh since the story broke. During the same event at which Trump made his sleazebag remarks, Walsh alleged that Goldberg's wants the world talking about more hoaxes. There is no persuasive evidence that there was anything hoax-like about Goldberg's story. Indeed, neither Trump nor the National Security Council nor Speaker Mike Johnson have disputed that the group chat took place, despite having ample opportunity to do so when speaking about the episode. Goldberg has even received praise from some quarters for not publishing the most sensitive elements of the chat, apparently out of concern for national security. As the smoke clears, one thing's for sure, it's huge and bizarre scoop for the Atlantic editor-in-chief. Probably the biggest scoop he will have in his entire career. So, and I'm not going to go on. This is just Yahoo News' top stories of the day, and most of them are about what we're talking about. So, we can we can move onward from this one because I think we've beat it to death. There's other articles, there's other stories, but I think we've beat it. Just don't. What is Italian eggs? Just don't get any from China. Well, I don't. Is China an egg producer? I'm not being sarcastic. I don't know the answer to that. But apparently, Italy is one of the largest egg producing countries in the world. Who knew? I don't know. I might want to put some eggs in my lasagna. All right. So this story is talking about Elon Musk, and he believes he knows why the administration signal leak was allowed to occur. This goes back to something else we talked about earlier. Elon Musk has attempted to explain why the Trump administration officials embroiled in the Signal group chat controversy did not use a government-approved communication system. White House National Security Advisor Mike Walls mistakenly, or his staffer, mistakenly invited the editor-in-chief, as we talked about, to an encrypted chat that included secret plans, blah, 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 days before the attack. The 18 national security and cabinet officials in the Houthi PC small chat, and he goes on to name all of them, have been criticized for the security lapse from both sides of the political aisle. As Democrats call for heads to roll, so we're going to fire everybody over one guy making a mistake. Fire the one guy. In the wake of damning report, Musk has rushed to excuse the behavior for embattled federal officials, said the system used by the federal governments are shockingly primitive. And I agree with that. Musk shared an X post by the author and cartoonist behind the Dilbert comics, Scott Adams, who wrote, "If Doge taught us anything, it's that all of our government systems are Stone Age relics. My best guess is that every government official in both parties uses commercial apps for all but the most sensitive. There is no real choice. Most government systems are shockingly primitive, and I agree. The Department of Government Efficiency, it's also known as DOGE, who President Trump charged with gutting departments and slashing bureaucracy, responded on Tuesday morning. In another post by White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt on Tuesday, who claimed that Goldberg is known for his sensationalist spin and that no war plans were discussed, Musk replied with 3 American flag emojis. Both replies came less than 24 hours after Musk shared a spoof post by the conservative news satire The Babylon Bee about Goldberg's report and took a swipe at the magazine he heads up. That's late night comics. They do that all the time. It's okay to joke if you're on one side of the party, but you can't if you're on another party. Best place to hide a dead body is page 2 of the Atlantic magazine because no one ever gets there, Musk tweeted before the post was later shared by Trump on Truth Social. Goldberg wrote that Waltz invited him to connect on March 11th. He was added 2 days later, and no one appeared alarmed or even aware that a mysterious interloper was in the chat. They should at least done a checkoff. Writing in the group, Vance appeared to disagree. We've talked about that. When probed by a reporter in the Oval Office, Trump said he didn't know anything about it, which I believe he probably didn't at that point. Some of the Trump administration's most staunch critics have suggested that security officials in the Signal group chat lose their job. I think a staffer at least needs to lose their job, but whether that happens or not, we'll see. So, all right, this article is just I don't know, what do you call it? Good health article. Also, real quick, we're almost to the top of the hour. It will be close to 5 a.m., I believe, in Australia. Between 3 and 5 a.m. in Australia. And so we're still on their overnight before their morning shock jock. So I want to thank everybody at Radio X for allowing us on and remind them that here in a few minutes, we will have some more news and weather, including sports and entertainment coming up. So hang tight. We will get there. Thank you to Radio X Australia, to Yerg's Radio. You can listen to us live on yergsradio.com and Rainbow Radio. That's all on Yerg's website, the yergsradio.com. And we are live on YouTube as well as many other forums. But I encourage everybody to come over to YouTube and find us. Please hit that thumbs up button, hit the share, and please hit that subscribe with the notification bell so you know when we're going daily or when we're going live daily, which is 1 o'clock Eastern in America and anywhere between 3 and 6 a.m. in Australia. And Chris says, I will try and keep my voice down for our Australian peeps. And he also wrote that the China eggs have more viruses. Our government being shockingly primitive may be the first truth I've heard from the media in years. Having worked for the government, I can assure you that it is true. So there you go. Top of the hour to everybody in Australia and wherever you're listening in the world. I encourage you to come over and join the chat with the likes of Chris and Wendell and give them hell. We also have a show Wednesday night where we discuss paranormal things. This week, we have two authors that are writing some great stories. They're on tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then we are having a Monday night show every other week about horror movies and horror items. Don't ask me to define horror items other than horror movies. So you can check us out at Para Are Normal, 3 words, and guys, Guyz, as in zebra, is how we spell it because we're just that way. So please come over and like, follow, share, and subscribe. And if you're ever bored and you want to listen to me, I'm also on the Thin Line Rock Station 2 days a week from noon till 2 Eastern. You can check that out at thethinlinerockstation.com. I'm over there and over here at the same time. All right, so this story comes to us from the NPR, which ironically is also on the hot seat this morning with the Voice of America and PBS. I'm not even going to go over those articles because it's kind of pointless. Pilot and 2 children survive a night on an airplane wing after crashing into an Alaskan lake. This photo that you're seeing here was provided by the Alaskan National Guard, with the plane partially submerged into the ice of the Tustamenia Lake at the toe. There's a toe of a glacier on Monday in Saldanha, Alaska. A pilot and 2 girls survived on the wing of a plane for 12 hours after it crashed and was partially submerged in an icy Alaska lake. They were rescued after being spotted by Good Samaritans. Terry Goads said he saw a Facebook post Sunday night calling for people to help search for the missing plane, which did not have a locator beacon on. You should always, if you're going to be doing something like that, you should always have satellite communications. Definitely satellite communications. So this Terry Goads said on Facebook Sunday he saw that people were calling for them to help for the missing plane, which didn't have the beacon. On Monday morning, about a dozen pilots, including Goads, headed out to scour the rugged terrains. He headed towards the lake near the toe. I don't understand why glaciers have toes. I didn't know that because they also have big feet of a glacier and spotted what he thought was wreckage. It kind of broke my heart to see, but as I got closer down and lower, I could see that 3 people on top of the wing, he told the AP on Tuesday. After saying a prayer, he continued to approach and saw a miracle. They were alive, responsive, and moving, adding that they waved at him. The missing Piper PA-12 super cruiser, piloted by a man with 2 juvenile immediate family members aboard, was on a sightseeing tour from Saldanha to Skelanka Lake at the Kenai Peninsula. The 3 were rescued on the eastern edge of the lake on Monday by Alaska Army National Guard after he alerted them and other searching pilots. That he later found out another pilot, Dale Elker, heard his radio call and relayed it to state troopers since he was closer to the lake and figured he had better reception. He was also able to provide the plane's coordinates, latitude and longitude. I wasn't sure if we would find them, especially because there was a cloud layer over quite a bit of the mountains, so they could have easily been in these clouds where we couldn't see or get to, he said. But finding a family alive within an hour of starting the search was good news. The 3 were taken to a local hospital with injuries that were not considered life-threatening, according to the Alaska State Troopers. Goads said many miracles were at play, from the plane not sinking to survivors being able to stay atop the wing to them surviving nighttime temperatures dipping into the 20s, sub-zero Celsius. They spent a long, cold, dark, wet night on top of a wing of an airplane at the toe of a glacier that they weren't planning on. Alaska has many roads, leaving many communities to rely on small airplanes to get around. Last month, 10 people died when a small commuter plane that was overweight by a half ton crashed onto sea ice in Norton Sound near Nome on the state's western coast. And 5 years ago, a midair collision near the airport claimed 7 lives, including that of a state lawmaker. For this week's rescue, the National Guard dispatched a helicopter from its base in Anchorage. The initial plan of using a hoist to pluck them from the wing proved too dangerous, as the smallest girl was being buffeted and blown around by the wind created by the helicopter, said Lieutenant Brendan Holbrook, commander of the 207th Aviation Regiment. So instead, the aircraft hovered to the side and pulled them aboard. Man, that must have been one heck of a pilot on that helicopter. Personnel reported that the girls were surprisingly dry, but that man had been in the water at some point. We don't know to what extent, but he was hypothermic. Holbrook said he was told they had basic clothing one would wear in a small plane without good heating system, but nothing sufficient to keep warm outside in the wintry temperatures with cold winds blowing on the lake. It was literally the best possible scenario and outcome, Holbrook said. Ultimately, the crew of that airplane were lucky because, from what my guys told me, the plane was in ice with the tail refrozen. And if that tail hadn't refrozen, it would have sunk. The 60,000 acre lake, the largest body in Kenai Peninsula, is about 80 miles southwest of Anchorage, with nearby mountains and a glacier. It has been described by the Alaska Department of Fish and Game as notorious for its sudden, dangerous winds with conditions that can cause havoc for both boats and planes. The terrain helps turn the winds around, and occasionally they get a little squirrely, according to Mike Cutts, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service, Anchorage. Goats agree that the area is always windy and the water can be whipped up into waves. Then just a ways later, it's placed right there at the heel of the toe, or at the toe of the glacier. You've got mountains on both sides. That just a few miles to the west, you've got Cook Inlet running back and forth, which huge temperature and tidal swings every day. It's just a recipe for chaos and turbulence. There is no indication as to why the plane crashed. An investigator from the NTSB, Alaska Division, said the pilot had not reported the accident, nor had the agency been able to contact him. Efforts will be made again today to speak to him. Interesting. Let's see. Shay at Starbucks would be a horror show. Yeah, well, she's good with horror. All right, so I've got to make nice with somebody and do a Taylor Swift story. Please, Chris, report this. Please. Chris says those people did absolutely nothing in preparation wise to remain alive, yet they remain so. Yes, it is unreal. I could have a show about survival and prepping as well. I'm not huge into storing food and but you must know your surroundings and you must be able to survive in an emergency. Whether it's you're surviving because your power went out for a lightning storm, or you're out camping looking for Bigfoot and a tornado comes through, or your plane crashes into a frozen lake. Who knew? So always try and have some preparation. Even when I flew as a flight medic, I carried stuff on me in case of an emergency, or I could signal or do something. All right, so I'm making nice here, Chris. Please report this. Taylor Swift in the Eras Tour terror threat mentioned during the Senate Intelligence Committee hearing. Yes, that's right. Taylor made Senate Intelligence Committee hearing. Democrat Senator Mark Warner spoke about the dangers of alienating allies. Her name was brought up during a Senate Intelligence Committee meeting on Tuesday. Much of the meeting was focused on national security lapse earlier when they discovered about the leak of the bombing we know about. During the hearing, Democrat Senator Mark Warner spoke about the dangers of alienating allies to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director John Radcliffe, and FBI Director Kash Patel. He used an August 2024 incident involving Taylor Swift's tour as an example, as the Grammy winners show in Vienna were abruptly canceled following the arrest of 3 suspects who reported a plan to unleash a terrorist attack at the show. That sharing of information saves lives, and it's not hypothetical. We all remember because it was declassified last year when Austria worked with our community to make sure and expose a plot against Taylor Swift in Vienna that could have killed literally hundreds of individuals, Warner said, of the benefits of shared security information among allies. According to Austrian officials, the main suspect of the foiled plan was an unnamed 19-year-old Austrian man who had reportedly been inspired by the Islamic State terror group. They said he planned to attack the estimated 30,000 Swifties expected to gather outside the stadium with knives or homemade explosives. After the shows were all called off, singers fans flooded the streets of Vienna for an impromptu sing-along and spontaneous celebrations of their devotion to the pop star, who later spoke out about the devastating incident. What is Wendell giving me grief about? Glen can't survive. Glen can't survive a small dog bite without divine warning. Well, I'm a slow learner, and we just had a class. My tool was in the other pocket. Just leave it alone, Wendell. All right. So the Beatles audition tape has been discovered. A Beatles audition tape has been discovered in a Vancouver record store. How is this even possible to have what sounds like a Beatles 15-song Decca tapes master, according to Neptune Records owner Rob Firth? A rare piece of Beatles history has resurfaced in an unexpected place, a small record store in Vancouver. Rob Frith, the owner of Neptune Records, recently stumbled upon what he believed was run-of-the-mill bootleg labeled Beatles 60s demo, but after finally playing the real tape, years after acquiring it, he realized he may have uncovered a direct copy of the band's original 1962 Decca audition tape. I just figured it was a tape off a bootleg record, he posted on social media. After hearing it last night for the first time, it sounds like a master tape. The quality is unreal. How is this even possible to have what sounds like a Beatles 15-song Decca master? The tape is believed to be a copy of the infamous January 1st, 1962 audition session the Beatles recorded at Decca Studios in London. The label famously passed on signing a group who would instead join Parlophone under George Martin and release their debut album Please Please Me in 1963. When he was speaking to the CBC, he said the sound quality was so pristine it seemed like the Beatles were in the room. The tape wound in what's known as leader tape, used to separate tracks on master recordings. In other words, they hand spliced that at the time. Wow. Was identified by music he keeps things preserved. He's a persavenist. I didn't know that was a word. Larry Hennessy as somebody far more than just a fan-made compilation. Further intrigue came when the Frith tracked down the man who brought the tape to Canada, Jack Hirshhorn, a former Vancouver label executive, according to Hirshhorn. The tape was given to him by a producer in London during the 70s with the suggestion to sell copies in North America, but he refused, saying it didn't feel like the moral thing to do. These guys are famous, and they deserve to have the rights and royalties on it. It deserves to come out properly. More than 60 years after the original sessions, fans can hear a snippet of their first track, Money, That's What I Want, on Instagram, where it's quickly gone viral among Beatles devotees. Says he has no intentions of selling the tape, but would gladly offer to a copy to Decca, as he joked, personally hand it to Sir Paul McCartney if he ever stepped in the record store. Interesting. That came to us from Billboard Music Magazine. And passing on the signing, the Beatles should cost that guy's job. Agreed. Well, Denise says, what I don't get is buying eggs from Italy. Wouldn't they cost more to ship? I don't know. Is there a tariff? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So this was trending, and I'm doing news and entertainment before I'm doing my weather reporting, guys. This is odd. Marvel is announcing Avengers Doomsday cast, including Chris Hemsworth, Thor, Anthony Mackie, Vanessa Kirby, and more, and they're updating this live. They're assembling once again. They're announcing the cast of Avengers Doomsday, in a live stream on YouTube and its social media channel using the hashtag for the film's title. Among the returning cast members are Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson / Captain America, Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier, Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, Ant-Man, and meanwhile, new superheroes are being introduced to the ensemble. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, making her first Marvel debut in the Fantastic Four First Steps. Lita Wright as Shuri Wyatt and Wyatt Russell as John Walker, U.S. agent, have been announced so far. It's been years since the team got together on screen when they defeated Thanos in the 2019 Endgame. That film said goodbye to, yes, Iron Man Jr., said goodbye to Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man, Chris Evans, Captain America, and Scarlett Johansson, Black Widows. In the years since, the MCU has began introducing characters like Simu Lang Shang-Chi and Wright Black Panther and the Eternals. However, Iron Man's death turned out not to be the last fans we will ever see of Downey in the Marvel Universe. In July of last year, the actor revealed at a San Diego's Comic-Con that he will portray the villainous Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom, in the upcoming Avengers film. New mask, same task, he told the crowd. Joe and Anthony Russo are also making their return. Kudos. Maybe I'll still make a cut to Marvel after directing Captain America, Winter Soldier, Civil War, and the last two Avengers to helm Doomsday. On the horizon, Marvel is releasing Thunderbolts on May 2nd and Fantastic Four July 25th. They are saying that Doomsday will be in theaters May 1st of 2026, and there are some rumors that we might see Deadpool again. Yay. All right, before we get into sports, let's see, what did it say? All right, Chris says, I can't get an egg 2 blocks from the grocery store to my house without breaking it. From Italy? No chance. Yeah, well, there's that. They are marked fragile, correct? All right, let me see here. Go to this one. This is the one I want. All right, so FEMA let me down. I'm going to update this. Nope, FEMA has not let me down. Yay. They're just late. All right, when I came to air almost 2 hours ago, they had not updated yet. All right, so maybe they're all tied up with the signal stuff. And I did understand today from one of the people testifying who I didn't know that much of the president's daily briefing, which is what I base this show on, is public sourced information. And so much so that they have to hire people to go through it to whittle down to just the facts that the president needs to know from public sourced information. That's not even the classified top secret mojo, secret squirrel stuff. So there's guys like me that whittle this stuff down for the president. I mean, I doubt he wants to know about Taylor Swift. He might, but I doubt it. But at any rate. So the FEMA Daily Operations Briefing for today, dated March 26th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which was late, FEMA, you're not telling the truth. Their ongoing operations, well, they're not really monitoring anything except for excessive rainfall, flash flooding in South Texas, severe weather in the Pacific Northwest. No new declarations, no new significant events. We look at the wildfire, and only the one in Pawnee, Oklahoma, is 73% contained. The rest are still burning at 0% containment. The fire weather outlook for today, as we talked about yesterday, will go pretty much from the Appalachian Mountains and at the base of Pennsylvania, at the base of the Pennsylvania line, all the way down to the tippy toe in Georgia, and then some over New Mexico as it crosses into south of the border, which is that little teeny tiny tip of Texas on the left. Just wants to know, does Hillary go through it first and clear what he gets? No, because every time they get something from Hillary, it smells like bleach. So just gonna leave that right there. Just leaving that one right there. Whatever you take from that, take from that. So it doesn't smell like stale cigar either. So the national weather forecast, according to the National Weather Service, we look and see that there's severe thunderstorms and mixed precipitation expected for what looks to be up along the Tacoma, Seattle area, extending over to the ocean, much of Oregon, with rain and thunderstorms pretty much the entire state of Washington, and this will extend down onto the southern coastline, almost probably San Francisco coastline of California. That high pressure is still sitting there over the Midwest with some spotty showers in the higher elevations in Colorado and Utah. Texas, well, you're going to get some rain thunderstorms pretty much all the state with heavy rain and flash flooding expected near San Antonio and the Gulf of America coastline. Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Mississippi, you're going to get some rain and thunderstorms. That little skip Alberta Clipper is no longer a clipper. It's got some snow extending from the Great Northern White to North Dakota, down into Minnesota and Wisconsin at the Great Lakes at the base of Lake Superior. In Idaho and Illinois, Chris, you're going to get some snow. Up in the Northeast, pretty much all of New York, Vermont, and Maine will be seeing snow or mixed precipitation today. Thursday, the only thing that's going to change from that is the thunderstorm region will change from pretty much the Gulf of America all the way up to the Great Lakes. And that snow will still continue in the northeast of Maine, being it's going to be a mixed bag. Well, Friday, well, the front is pushing back up from the Gulf of America, and all that snow will pretty much go from Washington to New Hampshire with some severe stuff along the border of the Canadian border. And the rain will continue through much of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley and stretching down into the southeast. Expecting Florida to have some severe flooding with as much as 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. And in the mountains of Washington and Oregon, they're expecting some snowfall to be potentially significant. A greater chance for rain is that would be the tip of Michigan, Wisconsin, pretty much anything coming off that Great Lake region. And then we will start seeing a drying period coming through later in the week. Most severe thing to be on the look out for is if you're in Alaska, high winds in Southern California from Mexico up down in the Baja, and some high winds in the Midwest with severe weather potential in the southeast, extending up into the mid-Atlantic the coastal area of Ohio, and possibly along the Atlantic seaboard, extending from Florida up to Chesapeake Bay, back down and across Georgia and both of the Carolinas. We still see that FEMA is still operating 91 plus 8. Have 91 plus major disasters, 8 emergency. They're repopulating 12 missions. They have 12 repopulation missions, and they're supporting 28 additional disasters. And the Joint Recovery Office is working with 6. That's basically 6 people working, or 6 offices working to coordinate all of those. The only thing we see new is that they have added to Mississippi tornado, thunderstorms, and flash flooding from March 14th to 15th to a damage assessment request for help. Let's see. This is nothing. These are just requests that are in process from previous things we've discussed earlier in the year. So that is your FEMA update for today. Next thing we'll jump to. We always want to know what our president is doing. Even if he's not on, he should just be in the Signal chat group. He would know what's going on. We'd know where he was. President Trump, if you're listening to me, I'm on Signal. Shoot me a message. All right, so at 9 a.m., we know they call the in-town cameras. Basically, that means at 9 o'clock, all the press that is staffed inside the White House or the compound has to be present. At 1 o'clock, there's a press briefing, which was an hour and 20 minutes ago. And in the James Brady press briefing room, and that will be video and camera participation. And then at 3 o'clock, the president participates in a Women's History Month event, and that will be in the East Room, and only pre-credentialed media will have access. So that's pretty much all he had. Yesterday, nothing changed on his schedule. That's all he's got today. You know, we say that's all he's got, but I'm sure something else will go on. Are they repopulating Bigfoot? Well, Wendell, you can do the research and see if you can find the video from the fire in the West where they supposedly had a Bigfoot in the net and helicoptered him out of the area. And Chris says Trump has to be doing something great that many, many people are talking about, and it will be perfect. I added the perfect part. That just annoys me. I don't know why that annoys me. Nothing is perfect. Nothing. There's nothing perfect. All right, so I already had the daily briefing pulled up from the National Weather Service because I didn't know if FEMA was going to bail me out, but it doesn't show anything different. Uh, whoa, there's nothing new. Pulled myself over here to the space weather advisory. There's nothing new. They said that earlier in the month there's some problems, but nothing is expected from space to be interfering, which is funny because they were calling earlier in the week that there could be a solar storm. So that's nothing new there. Yeah, let's see. We talked about the rains. There's nothing in the tropical outlook in the Atlantic or the Pacific region. And we'll talk about the fire weather and other things here in just a moment. And we'll get into the weather warnings. That's pretty much it. We saw the hazard assessment already. All right. So as we talk about it, I like to pull up. This is my new map of the spinny globe, and it just shows. I need to go back and watch other shows to make sure this is changing because I'm impressed every day by it. But it's just live video, live images from space of the globe. So, but mysteriously, there's a section missing on each side of the Antarctic. Is it daylight that's causing that? Is it aliens, or is the Earth flat? Just asking. So you can see the area where it's light and day. Maybe that's just where the tape is from. They put the pictures together on the board of the flat Earth. Who knows? I don't know. Do you know? I'm being facetious, everybody. All right, so we spin the globe around. We'll look down and check out our friends in Australia. We'll look a little bit closer here, but it looks like Queensland to the west is cloudy at the moment. And as we look at the United States, the cloud cover pretty much is over the west, Midwest, down in Texas, and up in the Northeast. If you're in the middle of the country, minus pollution, it should be a pretty cloud-free day. All right, so that is that. I love that little globe. Which one to say? I have seen that one where they had the one on the cable by the leg. Yes. All right, so we're going to pull up for our friends in Australia that have remained calm and patient with me all this time. And we'll look and see it. Queensland is going to have some scattered showers, and Brisbane, scattered showers with it extending down to New South Wales, Western Australia along the northern coastline, some scattered showers, some possibly severe. We'll pull that up real quick. And it's not showing any severe activity. Maybe off of the coast of Queensland, there's a storm that may come inland, and there's no extreme lightning conditions. The active storm is, I don't know, what is the name of this one? 2725 is currently on its way west into the Indian Ocean and will not affect anyone. And we see that New South Wales has several fires working at this time. Down in Tasmania, they have one from Perth in Western Australia southward to the coast. There's several brush fires. And it looks like in Western Australia, in the northern section of Western Australia, there's still some large fires. There's one right in the middle of the Northern Territory. Let's see. Pull up your air quality, and well, it's not showing anything significant that your air quality is bad. We've got your radar pulled up where you see where it's going to be. I thought I had one where, no, I don't. Okay, so there we go. That is some of the Australian weather. I think I got another map here as well, where we look at, I wanted to get a better look. This is another storm that they're looking at. And well, they've actually changed it and said that it now has a medium chance of intensifying and becoming something. It's a tropical low off of Broome, but it appears the winds are all headed west. or Courtney, the Category 2 tropical cyclone. So it hopefully will follow close to its path down into the Indian Ocean. So hopefully that will leave Australia alone. And up in the Philippines, there's a low chance of that one becoming anything as well. So what does it say? Wendell says, tomorrow I will be talking, I'm assuming he meant, with Yowie Central at 5 p.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Friday in Australia. Well, all right, congratulations. And as we zoom out on Zoom Earth, that's the only real cyclonic or hurricane activity we see, and just your basic cloud cover and rain across the rest of the globe. Zooming in closer to the United States, we see that there are still the fire warnings, like we talked about, from the base of Pennsylvania, the Mason-Dixon line, extending down through the Appalachia, pretty much all the way really into Atlanta, probably because of the population. And there is some red flag warnings and air quality alerts. We will cover that in a bit. And with Dallas extending eastward almost to Alabama, there's a line of storms that's being pushed from that front up in the Great White North. As we talked about, does not appear to be, let me check. I don't think there was one earthquake I was going to mention to you the other day, Wendell, and it was at the base of the Smokies of 2.1. I forgot to mention this one to you the other day, but it wasn't that bad. It was a small one in just above the Georgia state line there in the Appalachia Smoky Mountain region. So those are the only significant red flags and air quality alerts, pretty much from the Pennsylvania state line down, all of Virginia and both Carolinas. There's a frost advisory tonight over from Greensboro to pretty much Oak Island down to the coastline, Hatteras area. And the special weather statement is due to the air quality, which we're going to cover here in just a second. We look up here and they have all the gale warnings and everything along the western seaboard, extending down to, well, pretty much almost all of California. It really only gets to be hazardous from about Northern California, probably Clackamas, I think that is, up. So, and they have a hydrologic outlook for the higher elevations of Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. All right. Go to our next map, and we'll enlarge this. I like this one. Wendell wants to know, did I fall off the bed? Well, I don't understand, Wendell. Did I fall off the bed? No. I fell out of bed at the last moment yesterday to get a show on, if that's what you're asking. But all right, this is our live lightning map. We zoom out and zoom back in and see from San Antonio over to the Mexican border, pretty much that small little tip down towards McAllen, back along the Gulf of America. That little region there is where the most lightning is right now, currently in San Antonio south and west. Corpus Christi west of you as well. So if you're in those areas, seek shelter. And in Dallas, up in the northwest metro area, there's some lightning from a storm going on there. And this is also available, if anybody's curious, lightningmap.org. Yeah, well, it's the fire. She doesn't like the fire. She doesn't want me to go back into the fire business. So, not well. I'll tell you in personal message what's really going on. So that's pretty much for lightning, all that I see. We scan across the globe, and we see some up in, was that Algeria? Some at the tip along of the, what sea is that? I don't know what sea that is. Off the coast of Italy in Monaco, there's a small storm cell. And let's zoom a little bit further out. And we'll see in the southeast, in the Middle East, there's two small cells. Don't ask me to pronounce the names. Off of the Asian coast, there are several storms. You can get over here. I believe this is Korea. And there's some storms in South Korea. Down in Malaysia and Indonesia, there's some storm and lightning activity. And when you look at Australia, most of it is offshore of Western Australia and Northern Territory, and the one that's making its way to the Queensland, Brisbane, Gold Coast. And they are still working to recover from the flooding, and we wish them luck there. And Wendell said the earthquake in Appalachia. No, no. Well, wait a minute. I did fall out of bed at the last minute to do the show Monday. Yeah, so it may be. I don't know. Maybe Wendell. He could be right on that one. All right. This is weatherworn.com. And once again, I am not a paid, whatever you call it, but I do recommend weatherworn.com. This has all the warnings in the United States that are current at the time, and you can pull them up and it will give you updates and assessments. We talked about a lot of them. Andy is still testing up in Maryland. Can somebody please tell Andy to stop testing? We know it works. So we see that Vermont has just issued a special weather statement for snow. That's going to be in the Green Mountains. If you ever get a chance to go to the Green Mountains, go. That is this is from someone who was born in Virginia and enjoyed the Appalachian Mountains and the Great Smoky Mountains and all along the Blue Ridge Parkway. The Green Mountains took me and KG by total shock. We have never seen something so beautiful in our entire lives. So if you ever get a chance to go to the Green Mountains, do it. Do not hesitate. And yes, Wendell, one day I will soon be doing a camping trip up there looking for Squatch. I just got to find somebody to do these shows so I can go out and do things. So we talked about the frost advisory in the Carolinas. And then we have also talked about the gale warnings off of the coast. So that's nothing new there. The high surf over in California, that's pretty much what we said, some severe storms. Dense fog in Alaska with high wind warnings. That probably goes back to our storm talking about the plane crash earlier. And the high rains in Oregon and Washington. Red flag warnings for Wyoming, and it's probably because of the air quality. And Texas, we talked about the flood watches, and that's pretty much all of it. Some hazardous seas, that's out in the Caribbean, and then there's some air quality alerts and a special weather statement, probably in the Shenandoah Valley due to the cold that will be pushing through tonight, in addition to the dry weather and the red flag warning that will also be in that area later tonight, extending probably into tomorrow. Yes, Andy is always throwing text messages out to try and keep the authorities second guessing his movements. It is a strategy. It is a strategy. Can someone tell him to stop, though? It's annoying. But why do they test every day? You know it works. That was actually trending on X when I came live, the emergency broadcast system, and I couldn't find out why the emergency broadcast system was trending. I couldn't find an emergency broadcast. So it must have been Andy testing. I don't know. All right. So that red flag warning will continue up into the Metro DC DMV area as well. So that's pretty much it. We know where the activity currently is. We talked about. We know where the storms and storm potentials are. Today we've talked about the winds we're going to get into here in just a minute. And the tornadic outlook for today is low, except for up from Seattle southwards in the higher elevations. And that could be snowdados. Snowdado? Is that a thing? Snowdado? So it could be a thing today. I've seen a fire NATO. Is there a snow NATO? I don't know. All right. So we're going to look here at the trends on the wind map. And we see that from the Gulf of America pushing up to the northwest, skirting along the Rocky Mountain region is where that front is. And it's spinning down a little bit over Chicago down there, extending into the Ohio Valley, back over to the Atlantic coast. And most of the weather on the west side of the country will be pushing from the west up and slightly southward, just a little bit, with the highest wind speed recorded on the continent right now, currently at 26.1 miles an hour. All right, so that's that one. We'll pull up the big one here in just a minute. I like to give you time between the two. So, all right, so this is our map of showing where all active fires are in the United States. And once again, a reminder, just because you see a red dot does not mean that's a fire. They have not confirmed boots on the ground, something the satellite has seen or has been reported by radio or telephone. our signal. Who knows? They may have reported it on signal. We see the fire watch area still in the Appalachia. We see on the Carolina side of the Appalachia, they're still working on those fires. There's warnings down into Atlanta with several small ones in the northwest metro up to the northern tip of Georgia. And we see on the other side of the Appalachia, really the Blue Ridge area, from the base of from the Mason-Dixon line extending down to the Carolinas is where that red flag warning is. And we once again take a peek at Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is still burning. So the most lightning is in Venezuela. Well, I don't know. We're off of that map now, Chris. We still have the fires down in South Florida, and they have not managed to get them under control yet, but they have not closed the Keys any in the past 48 hours. Still small fires up off of Titusville, Cape Canaveral area, Patrick Air Force Base. Merritt Island is where that fire is. Another beautiful place if you ever get a chance to go. I love Merritt Island. And some small fires out just east of Eustis, Leesburg, which is an Orlando suburb. And let's see, we'll hop up here and see West Virginia. Some small fires have been reported in the Allegheny Mountains, but nothing confirmed. In Ohio, the same goes. And we'll hop over to Indianapolis, Illinois, and it doesn't look like there's any confirmed fires in any of those areas. So they're all just reports. And remember, like even when I zoom in here on Knoxville, these could actually be small brush fires, or they could be something as simple as a house fire. So Google it, then you'll know. Well, Wendell, that's why I have this show, so I don't have to Google it. I do the work for you, Wendell. It's my job. It's what I do. I do it just for you, Wendell. All right, so this is the same map showing the fires, but this one gives us a perspective of the wind and the smoke. And we see a lot of the smoke really coming down from northwest of Kansas, going down the Missouri to the Missouri line, and Oklahoma. All of their winds are going to be pushing to the south, so that's going to cause Texas to have some smoky conditions. The fires over on the eastern seaboard in the south, those are pushing south as we saw with the winds. And they're all going to be pushing out to the Atlantic Oceans. And you may see some smoke, some fog from pretty much Pensacola through Panama City, going across Tallahassee, Jacksonville region. These are not producing a great deal of smoke as far as extending with the wind. So that's a good sign. And the fires down in south of the border are all those winds are pushing that down along the Mexican coastline. So that is the smoke conditions. We'll look at the airflow quality or the air quality as we talk about this. And just as we expected in Kansas and Oklahoma, looks like they're going to have some moderate conditions of air quality. In other words, it's unhealthy air. It's not that it's bad, but it just won't make you feel good. Over in Southern California, San Diego, it is horrible right now. So if you're anywhere along the, let's see, the Riverside, South San Diego, that's on the other side of the mountain there. I can't remember. What is that? Is that Sierra? That's not Sierra Nevada. The Pacific Northwest Mountains, San Bernardino Mountains. There it is, right in front of me, is where most of that is. It's probably due to a fire there. Chris, up in Illinois, let's see. It looks like, well, from Chicago eastward down to pretty much West Virginia state line is moderate conditions, but the central part of the state are looking pretty good. St. Louis in Jefferson City, Missouri, it's moderate. Wendell, where you are, yeah, you should be fairly in the clear. Memphis and Chattanooga, going down to Birmingham, is moderate. Atlanta's in the clear for a change. It's everywhere south of Atlanta in Georgia. So, and of course, everywhere in Mississippi southwards down to the Louisiana coastline. And we talked about Texas. So that is your air quality map for today. Up in the northeast, air quality in, was that Vermont and New Hampshire? It's more in New Hampshire. Up in Maine. No, I'm sorry, it's not New Hampshire. That's in Maine, over from the New Hampshire line. Some moderate air conditions. Wendell says, I have to give you a hard time because what you're showing doesn't cover everything. Wendell, it's impossible to cover everything because I talk enough in 2 hours. It's impossible to do it. Trust me. All right, so I pulled up the Weather Channel because it's that time of year where we're all hacking, coughing, sneezing, wheezing, and we see that pretty much where we expect it to be. If you look at the Atlantic coastline at the Chesapeake line, probably Ocean City, Maryland, pretty much goes straight across the country. I would say it extends all the way to the West Coast, is where all of your tree pollen is. And we're going to start seeing the grass get the grass pollen getting up there too. And the breathing map, well, if you're, yeah. No, I'm not a subscriber. Leave me alone. No thanks. If you look across pretty much the southeast from the coastal regions of the Carolinas, extending south of the Appalachian Mountains in North Georgia mountains into Alabama, some poor breathing conditions. Chris, you're in the clear, it looks like. Down along where the fire is in Texas and Oklahoma, those areas are poor for breathing at the moment. So that's your breathing index. Let's see, where's the pain map? I haven't brought the pain map up today. Aches and pains. Who should be a window? You shouldn't be complaining of any aches and pains today in your old age. It's all in the Midwest. So you have no reason to complain today, Wendell. You should not be in any pain. It's all out in the Midwest in the Northwest. All right, here it is, as promised. And I like to deliver on my promises. There's the beautiful blue globe in all its AI glory, showing the current winds. And as we talked about, the United States is not really windy at the moment. It's all off of the seaboard on the Pacific Northwest side and pretty much way out, maybe towards Bermuda northward. But it's pretty calm relatively in the United States, wind-wise. So there you go. And they don't see any activity in the Caribbean or the tropics that we expect to be a problem. And if we shoot down to our friends in Australia, we will see that cyclone spinning and making its way out to the Indian Ocean. That little front with potential, hopefully we'll be following the same southwest trek, staying clear of the great continent of Australia. And it does not look like they're very windy, although they do have some winds extending. It impresses me how their winds are the opposite of ours. Theirs go from east to west, whereas ours typically go from west to east. Wendell, why are you still in bed, you lazy bum? Get out of bed. What's wrong with you? Get out of bed, Wendell. What's wrong with you? Gosh. Remind me again, why do people listen to this show? I'm trying to figure this out. I love all of my fans. I love each and every one of you, and I mean that. So we'll skim real quick because we're going to run out of time. I almost timed this correct. Through the event list, and we will see that we have a new one in Australia. Port Beach, a shark attack. A swimmer was bitten by a 1.5, probably is pretty big, tiger shark at the Sand Tracks surfing spot. Well, I hope they're okay. We see in Slovakia, they have declared a state of emergency over the foot and mouth disease. Well, maybe you shouldn't put your foot in your mouth. You won't get the disease. That was a joke. I don't mean to offend anybody with foot and mouth disease. Nothing new. Well, no, we see in Latvia, there have been 12 E. coli cases that are under investigation. Goodness, well, we need to get the E. coli handled. And nothing new. We know that everywhere in the world they're battling the bird flu. Nothing new. Hungary, where they had several Chinese restaurants in Hungary closed in Budapest due to hygienic conditions. So if you're listening to us in Hungary and you're anywhere near Budapest, do not go to a Chinese restaurant. And nothing new there. Nothing new there. I'm just scanning through Nigeria. A bid to bomb another pipeline in the rivers was foiled by the police, army, navy, and air force. Well, good for them. And we talked about the flammable devices found at Tesla yesterday. And hundreds of people are being arrested in Turkey as the protesters are defying crackdown. If you get some time, go check that out. Let's see. Nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing there. I like to say nothing is there. Let's see. Russia Federation. This came out overnight. New fuel oil emissions found along Black Sea coastline. In Malaysia, they had some Johor post flood cleanup, 500 tons of waste to be cleaned up. I really don't know what that is. The toxic bugs in Cyprus are still causing panic. And overnight, an explosion. Though we talked about that in the Czech Republic, the explosion and gas explosions ripping through a mobile phone business in Dagestan, Russia. We talked about that. And I don't see anything new there. Outdoor fires, Korea, Ethiopia, South America, South Africa, and the Middle East. There's several fires. And an avalanche killed 3 skiers in Canada near Kaslo. In China, we reported that they had a 4.5 earthquake near Beijing, shaking the residents from their bed. And then they had some off the South China Sea, Nepal, Peru, the Philippine Seas, and out in small southern areas of China. Another large one in Iran, which should be suspicious, being as all of the things we've talked about, with another in Chile. In Croatia, a landslide has disrupted traffic amid heavy rainfall. And let's see, Pakistan, a glacier collapse has damaged houses and hotels in Narnan. And let's see, Kilauea volcano has erupted in Hawaii. And that's the only thing new there. We've talked about flooding around the world. And let's see, Indonesia, 1 dead, 2 missing in sludge collapse at Chinese fun nickel plant. Don't know what that means, but 1 is dead and 2 are missing in sludge. Chris says they were mostly peaceful, flammable devices. Yes, they were. They came to do no harm. In India, a 6th-floor apartment building collapsed, leaving 6 dead. In Spain, a jellyfish warning has been issued as multiple Portuguese men of war are washing up on Dystopian beach. In Lithuania, 3 foreign soldiers are missing after an exercise. And 3,000 villagers in India need to be shifted for missile testing. So they're just going to pick them up and move them? Is that what that means? That's weird. 6 stampede in Egypt killed a child after a false alarm fire. We talked about that. And South Korea, firefighting helicopter crashed, killing the pilot. We hate to hear that. And the pilot and the 2 daughters, we talked about that surviving. Let's see. We did not talk about in France, the impact of the 2 Air Force planes that collided, and that was not good. If you can see that video on YouTube. It's not pleasant. Let's see. We talked about the people crushed by the steamroller. In South Korea, a Russian ship burst into flame near South Korea as 6 sailors left injured. I'm sure that is suspect. And let's see. Nothing new there. And we've talked about extreme rainfall around the globe already. And we've talked about extreme storm conditions in the United States and lightning around the world. Thick fog in Sydney and in South Korea, Ecuador, and parts of Canada. And we talked about the winds in the storms. We didn't really talk about Kazakhstan or any places like Russia or anywhere else, but there are some storm conditions expected. What happens when I hit show more? That's just of that. Okay, so we have got that event list. And I just pulled this up just to give you a reference. We'll refresh this real quick to make sure nothing is new. And New Zealand was the last earthquake at 6.7. We're still monitoring Courtney, 25. We talked about the floods and volcanoes in Indonesia and also in Hawaii. All right, so that's all for that one. Let me go back here. How are 3 people being burnt alive at once when one bike contacts a wire in India? Sounds sketchy. Sounds to me like some... I don't know. I'm going to leave it alone. People lost lives, so I'm not going to joke. That could be serious. So, Come on, wake up. Oh, good Lord. Been sitting here and it wants to make sure it's me. Well, I don't think anybody else has got behind the keyboard. Logged me out. All right, so we'll look here real quick. Oh, it looks like there has been some activity reported throughout the country. This is fire rescue emergency activity. We're getting close to the end here, guys, so bear with me. We'll probably lose Radio X here in a few minutes. So we want to thank everybody at Radio X, and you can come over to Jurg's Radio and catch the rest of the show. Or we encourage you to come over to YouTube and find us on the Para Our Normal Guys. That's 3 words, and guys is spelled with a Z as in zebra. I need you to hit that thumbs up button, all of you that are watching right now. I need you to share this and make sure to hit that notification bell in case I decide to go live for no apparent reason. All right, so in Connecticut, they had a 2-story wood frame dwelling fire in New Haven on Spring Street. Fairview, New Jersey, they had at 30 Industrial Avenue a working fire for a commercial building. In Texas, they had a first alarm fire in a 1-story church. And Austin, Texas, in 6500 block of Auburn Hill Road, they were on scene of fire through the roof in a 2-story dwelling. That was overnight. In Patterson, New Jersey, overnight, there was a stabbing, patient condition unknown, no perp information noted. Overnight in Brooklyn on Pulaski Street, FDNY was on scene, and they reports a fire all under control. All right. I don't know what that means. Well, we'll see if they transmit anything else. In New Bedford, Mass, overnight, they had a 1-alarm story in a taxpayer. And what a taxpayer means is just a single family dwelling. Fort Worth, Texas, a 2nd alarm for fire in a private dwelling with heavy fire showing. Probably needed extra water and manpower. Overnight, where is this? Milford, Connecticut, multiple people injured. Schoolhouse Road at Bridgeport Avenue, an MVA, and there was a motor vehicle accident with a number of people injured, and they requested additional EMS to rush to the scene, emergency medical services. All right, this was overnight still in Colony, New York, Tanglewood Road. I'm not sure where, or is that Colony, New York, for heavy fire in an occupied dwelling. They located the victim and removed unknown condition. All right. And let's see, around midnight last night, a stabbing in Manhattan. NYPD was on scene, said a male was slashed to the neck, and they put out a full alert to seal off the area. And last night in Queens on Wyckoff Avenue, 14th Division reports fire has all been knocked down and search is complete and everything is under control. And that was the one fire. All right, Indiana, overnight. This looks like it was right after midnight in Osceola, Indiana, on Pelsk Road. A 2nd alarm transmitted. That means they told radio to send more help. Fire in a 2-story dwelling with heavy fire in defensive operations. Defensive means that they are not going inside the building. They're going to fight the fire from the outside. Let's see. And I think we are back to where we were yesterday. Medford, Mass. They had a 2.5-story wood frame dwelling. Everybody accounted for. Power lines down. High tension power lines down in a working fire. Let's see. Overnight in Boston, they had a 3rd alarm at Bruce Street. Heavy fire through the roof of a 2.5-story wood frame dwelling. And that is pretty much it until yesterday when we talked about brush fires in Atlanta. And in this other map, right here is where I want to go. This is the other interactive map of live events occurring in the U.S. And we'll just take a little brief tour around the world here and see what's going on. We have up in Connecticut, people they made arrests in a fatal shooting on the Christmas Eve attack. That was 16 hours ago. Look at all these fires and things in New York City. What was that? A federal judge blocked detention of Young Sung Chung, a Columbia student and resident. Trump administration seeks to arrest and deport. Okay. And 2 teenagers slashed in Astoria Park in Queens. We talked about that. And the fire in, what is this? Queens. We talked about that. We'll see what this one is. 140 Minhan Street. Confirmed person shot. I'm pretty sure we mentioned that fire in Brooklyn. All right. Well, so we'll zoom out. We'll skate over here towards Pennsylvania and see that one person was shot in Lebanon County. It looks like Andy's area. Well, I don't know. Hold on, Baltimore. There's multiple people shot, probably. A shooting that appears to have happened outside a laundromat. You can't even go wash your clothes. What the heck? And this is a wildfire? No. A man is in critical condition after a shooting near an elementary school. Well, shame on him. We go up here, Hyattsville, and they had a shooting of adult female, single gunshot wound en route to the local trauma center. There's always something going on around DC, so we'll just kind of quickly scan it. Okay, so I don't know what this White House. This entire story is another hoax written by someone who hates President Trump, is known for his. Why is this showing up on my map? But that's all coming from President's Park. SecDef, our mission is to stop wars, but if they occur, we will keep working to destroy our enemy. Well, I'm glad to know that. Why did that show up? Person stabbed. What is this down here? These are probably in Washington, D.C., southeast. Yeah, the armed carjackings. That area is notorious for them. The carjacking in the Navy District, and over another two in the Navy District. All right, so we'll continue. Where is this? This is in. Oh, this is nearby me. Officers on scene of a fatal hit and run crash at Scooter Mount Vernon Highway in Drew Court in Hybla Valley. That's not far from where I grew up. Yet where I grew up is actually visible on the map there. Cool. All right. I guess it's not cool because somebody got injured, right? KG, down for you. A man is dead after two-vehicle crash, according to the state police. That looks to be somewhere southwest of Roanoke and over in the Carolinas. They're dealing with critical injuries in Raleigh after a shooting. And Charlotte police are investigating a homicide in East Charlotte. And we're just scooting around here a little bit. If there's something you guys see on here that you want me to pull out in specific, let me know. Let's see. Update: officials identify suspect killed in deputy involved shooting. I'm not going to have time to get to that today. Let's see. Wendell, up in your neck of the woods, a police officer, bystander shot following a bank robbery in Florence. Is that why you're still in bed, Wendell? I'm just asking for a friend. Let's see what happened down in Birmingham. Heavy flames at Reverend Aberon Woods Drive, across the street from the high school. Down in Tallahassee, it looks like there was a motor vehicle wreck, and it was a car versus motorcycle. Lost control. The motorcyclist lost control and traveled into the path of the vehicle. Well, that could be bad. Let's hop up to where you are, Chris. I'm not going to zoom in on all these. I'm going to bet most of these are probably gun related. Well, no, that's a bomb threat at the Harold Washington Library. They stated they received a female inside the library, says that there was a bomb on the 7th floor bathroom. Unknown if it was the men or women's. All right, so we'll take a look at this one. They released the identity of a 13-year-old boy killed in a shooting in Inglewood. And we're going to assume all these are probably, just going to guess these are all shots fired or shooting calls. Probably. Wendell, did you rob a bank? I'm just asking. Let's see. This is a fire up in Chicago, a house fire in the Lonsdale on the west side. All right, we've lost Radio X, so we will just be wrapping it up here real quick as we scoot around down in St. Louis. There is a 2-story brick building with heavy fire on the 2nd floor. Oklahoma, 2 injured, 1 stabbed in a fight at a Kentucky Fried Chicken. Who fights at a Kentucky Fried Chicken? I don't get it. Kansas City, another shooting. And Omaha police have taken 2 into custody after chasing them down. And we'll see what's happening up here in Utah because we don't talk about them much. Officers were following a fleeing vehicle and went into West Jordan and bailed on foot. A helicopter assisting the search. Last heard, they were not located. West Jordan police were not involved in the incident. All right, what was this one? This is human bones found near a pond at 4220 West Lake Park Boulevard in West Valley City. The ME is working to retrieve the remains and attempt to determine the identity of the person. All right, that's in Salt Lake City. KFC, exactly. They bring the whole world joy. How can you not be happy with eating KFC? I don't get it. Oh, all right, guys. Well, from my friend down in Denver, let's see what happened there. I'm sure it's gun related. Um, One hospitalized after shooting in downtown Denver, Colorado Springs. There's an active police presence for a possible stabbing in Manitou Springs. So, all right. I'm just going to leave all these alone. I don't see anything else. Well, this is probably going to be the plane crash in Alaska. What do you bet? So we don't get much news up there. Pilot and 2 children survive on an air wing after it crashed. Yep, that's that. Oh, wait a minute. What was that? Hawaii? We don't get much from Hawaii. What was that? Was it in Hawaii? Did I miss it? Where'd it go? Yeah, there it is. We don't see a 29-year-old man is in critical condition following a stabbing in Honolulu. Does this show anywhere else in the world, or it's just the United States? Oh, no, wait a minute. What we got over here in France? We'll just pull it up here for fun. NATO Secretary General says there are no alternatives. There is no alternative to NATO. The time is not right to act alone in Europe or America. What are they acting alone in America on? We don't need anybody acting in the U.S. We've got plenty of bad actors, so we don't both for Hollywood and bad actors for other events. Don't see anything reported down under, so we'll leave that alone. And that looks like the event map, pretty much for the United States. Quickly looking at Bitdefender, this is the same story every day. The United States is under attack from cyber threats constantly. I recommend that if you want to check this out, you go over to Bitdefender and check out the real-time map and see how often we're just getting bombed from China, Asia, Russia, the Middle East with different attacks, infections, and spam. Not that we're the only ones in the world, because Russia is not alone. They also receive a lot of the same things, but it seems like us in Russia are always getting hit by cyber threats. So check that out if you like. I looked at the flight restrictions map, and I see that we have removed up here some of the space operations. It doesn't extend as far out. Still don't know what that's about. And of course, we'll probably never know. Security reasons. What is this one? It doesn't say. Temporary special security. Wonder what that is. It's temporary flights. So you can't do it. You can't fly in that area of Alaska. Interesting. Don't know why, but doesn't really say. And space operations still there. That's such a small area. Hazards in Alaska. We zoom out. It's unmanned aviation. And down here, we figure out down in South Florida, it's either for the Mar-a-Lago compound or probably for that's for VIP. And the smaller one is probably for, well, that one's for an air show down in the Keys. The smaller one is for firefighting operations, I would imagine. And air show, that's up in, where is it, Tampa? Yeah, St. Cloud, St. Cloud, is that right? Yeah, it's in that area for an air show, probably over the weekend. They're getting it out early so that people are well aware to avoid the area. And this is talking about coming across the Appalachian Mountains, probably turbulence, high elevations. We see the normal thing there around Washington, D.C., and then they talk about off of the coast where that storm is. We saw most of the lightning was down in that region for turbulence. That's pretty much all of that. Yeah, that was that. The only other thing I was going to talk about today, and I seem to every day not have stories I don't get to. We were going to talk about some law enforcement stuff. We're going to figure out a way to get all this in. Kansas City trooper identified and found a kidnapped 6-year-old after doing a traffic stop. Routine traffic stops are how we solve a lot of crimes. We know about the FBI arsons, how they've alerted anyone if you own a Tesla, be prepared to expect arsons. gunfire, vandalism, improvised explosive device. 3 teens have been charged with first-degree murder and a deputy's death. 3 teens in gun violence death that killed an officer. He was deploying. I'm sorry, this was not gun violence. He was deploying a spike strip as they were fleeing in a vehicle, and they intentionally run him over. They swerved out of the way to intentionally run him over. Sergeant Grant Candles. He was 37. So they finally managed to get them under control and arrested. And we see here the Louisiana Deputy Sergeant Grant Candies. I'm sorry, I said Candles earlier. He was a 9-year veteran of the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office. He was married with 2 children. And the other story, New Mexico officer walks away from a muddy sinkhole after it swallowed his cruiser. You can look there. It did. The sinkhole grabbed the cruiser, but he's okay. So, and New Orleans had a sudden death of a police officer, and they don't exactly say why, but you know, here in the past few weeks, we've had several female police officers, 2 within the same department, commit suicide. So, but those are not considered line of duty. Sergeant Grant Candies was the last line of duty death for the officer down. And we are still at 18 for the number of firefighters fatalities in the United States. And that was pretty much it for me. We ran over, but I wanted to just kind of highlight those for everybody. I'm glad everybody hung out. Thank you. I know we lost Radio X, but I appreciate Yerg's Radio and Rainbow Radio for sticking around. If you miss this, it'll be available on YouTube. Come over to the Paranormal Guys. You can check it out, and it will be live, or not live, but it'll be on tape delay there, so you can catch it there. Let's see. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. Chris, you're falling down on the job. Need everybody to do that. And let's see. This will be available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, everywhere later this afternoon. But that's pretty much all I got, unless there's any questions, comments, or queries. Of course, you can always go to the show description, find out how to contact me. You can email me at sportcat@protonmail.com. Or if you want to shoot me a message, you can go to speakpipe.com/sportcat and shoot me a voice message there. I'm up for anything, and I'm pretty much available for Chris said he was typing to remind me as I said it. I'm pretty much available on all social media as @Sportcat, our Sportcat Medic. You can find me on X and Instagram. You can find me everywhere. I don't post much, though. I do need to do my Wednesday waffle today, so I encourage everybody to do the Wednesday waffle and post it. I will do that later today, and then tomorrow I will be back at 1 o'clock, and I will also be on the Thin Line Rock Station at noon tomorrow. So it's tape delayed, but I'll still be there. I think that's all the places you can find me. Oh, tonight we have a great show lined up with 2 authors, Angela and Fern. One of them is talking about past life regression. That's going to be a great show. And the other one is science fiction fantasy with a touch of romance. So I'm sure Amanda will handle the romance part. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. All I've got. I will see you tonight at 9 for the Paranormal Guys. Please come back and watch the show with Angela, Fern, me, and Amanda. And then tomorrow at 1, I will be back here on Radio X. Ross or Yergs will have me on YergsRadio.com and Rainbow Radio. Beyond the Box, thank you for showing up and waving something. You waved something pink. I don't know, your pelvis or something. I don't know. Thank you for Beyond the Box for showing up. We know that's Brenda. Everybody have a great day. I will see you soon. I can't think of anything else to say, but I feel like I'm missing something. I don't know. If I can think of it, I'll just put it in my Wednesday waffle. And I encourage everybody to do that. Lets us know what's going on with you in your life. So, oh, Brenda says she's been here. She's just been quiet. Brenda, you're quiet? What the hell? I'm shocked. All right, Brenda's here. Beyond the Box. Make sure to check out her show too. It talks about things I don't talk about. Like when I show my blue globe, she gets her feelings hurt. So, but she gets over it. Love you, Brenda. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for very much. See you soon. Bye now. Sportcat is out.